If I am going to suffer HIV, I won't suffer alone, Victor said. Every batch of holy zobo was contaminated with his blood. Victor Adebayo was the kind of man who turned heads wherever he went to in Lagos. At 28, he possessed some kind of rugged handsomeness that made women weak in their bones. Chiseled jawline, piercing brown eyes, and a smile that could charm the devil himself. He knew his power over women, and boy, did he use it well. Victor, my guy, his friend Tunde called out over the pounding bass of the music at the club Elox on Victoria Island. You see that babe at the bar? She's been eyeing you since we walked in. Victor glanced over, his eyes meeting those of a beautiful woman in a red dress. He flashed his trademark smile, and she blushed, looking away. It was too easy, really. By the end of the night, she would be going home with him. They always did. Tunde, you know how we do now, Victor replied, adjusting his designer shirts. Lagos women can't resist the charm. But tonight, I'm thinking bigger. See those three ladies by the VIP section. His friend laughed, but there was a hint of concern in his laughter. Boy, slow down small. You dey carry different women every night. At least use protection. Victor waved dismissively. Protection, ke? That thing spoils the whole experience. Besides, I'm young, I'm strong. Nothing can touch me. This was Victor's philosophy. Live fast, love hard, and worry about consequences later. He worked as a marketing executive for a telecommunications company, earning good money that he spent on expensive clothes, drinks, and impressing women. His apartment in Lekki was always hosting parties, and there was never a shortage of female company. Every weekend, it was the same routine. Friday nights at Elox, Saturday afternoons at pool parties in Banana Island, and Sunday evenings at wine bars in Ikeja. Victor had a different woman for every occasion, and he prided himself as never being tied down. Victor, when will you settle down? His mother asked during their weekly phone calls. Your age mates are getting married and having children. Mama, Lagos is full of opportunities. I'm still exploring, he responded, never mentioning the real nature of his explorations. He started with a persistent cough that wouldn't go away. Victor initially attributed it to the air conditioning in his office, or perhaps the Lagos dust. Then came the fatigue, a bone-deep tiredness that no amount of sleep could cure. Yeah, you look pale, Tunde observed one evening as they sat at their usual spots. When last did you eat? Victor looked at his reflection on his phone camera. His usual glowing skin looked so dull, and his eyes seemed sunken. I've just been working too hard, man. This new project at the office is killing me. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. The headaches were becoming too frequent, and he had lost his appetite completely. Even worse, his legendary stamina with women was declining rapidly. Maybe you should see a doctor, suggested Kemi, one of his regular companions. She was a banker who he had been seeing on and off for months. You've been looking really tired lately. I'm fine, Victor snapped, more harshly than he intended. He didn't like people pointing out his weakness. As weeks passed, the symptoms worsened. He developed a rash on his chest that wouldn't clear up, and his lymph nodes were swollen. People at work started whispering about him not being well. The rumors spread like wildfire. In Lagos, gossip traveled faster than traffic on 3rd Mainland Bridge. Soon, his phone was buzzing with concerned calls from friends and family. Victor, people are saying you have HIV. His cousin Bob called to inform him. Is that true? What kind of question is that? Victor exploded. Because a man loses some weight, you people will start spreading evil rumors. But the seed of fear had already been planted. HIV. the three letters that struck horror into the hearts of many. Victor always thought himself invincible, but now doubt creeps in like morning mist over Lagos Lagoon. Dr. Sarah Okafor looked across her desk at Victor with compassionate eyes. The consultation room in Lagos University Teaching Hospital felt smaller than usual. The walls seemed to close in as she held his test results. Mr. Adebayo, I need you to prepare yourself for what I'm about to tell you, she began gently. Victor's heart hammered against his ribs. His palms were sweaty. His mouth felt dry as Sahara. Just tell me straight, doctor. I'm not a child. Well, you are HIV positive. The words hit him like trailer on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The room spun, and for a moment, he couldn't breathe. What? What did you just say? You are HIV positive, Mr. Adebayo. I know this is difficult for you to hear, but no! Victor shot up from his chair, rocking it backwards. That's impossible. Check again. There must have been a mistake. Dr. Okafor remained calm, accustomed to such reactions. I understand your shock, but we ran the test multiple times to be certain. However, I want you to know that HIV is no longer a death sentence. With proper medication and lifestyle changes, you can live a normal, healthy life. Victor slumped back into his chair, his world crumbling around him. How long do I have to live? With antiretroviral therapy, which I'm prescribing for you today, many people with HIV live for decades. Some live completely normal lifespans. The key is starting treatment immediately and taking your medication consistently. She handed him a prescription and several pamphlets. These drugs will help suppress the virus and prevent it from progressing to AIDS. You will need to take them every day without fail. Also, it's crucial that you inform all your sexual partners so they can get tested. The mere mention of his sexual partners made Victor's stomach lurch. How many women had he been with in the past year? He had lost count. The thought of calling each one, admitting his status, facing their horror and accusations, it was unbearable. Doctor, who else knows about this? Only the medical staff involved in your care. We maintain strict confidentiality. However, I strongly encourage you to tell your close family and friends. You will need their support. As Victor walked out of the hospital into the blazing Lagos sun, he felt like a zombie. Cars honked around him, street vendors called their wares, and life in Lagos continued in its chaotic dance. But he felt disconnected from it all. He was damaged goods now, marked by a virus that carried enormous stigma in Nigerian society. For weeks, Victor remained in his apartment, dodging calls from friends and family. The world seemed to mock him with memories of all the women who he had brought there, all the unprotected encounters that led to these moments. His phone buzzed constantly with messages. Guy, where are you? We never see you for weeks now. Victor, your office people are looking for you. Bro, hope you are okay. People are talking. The last message sent chills down his spine. If people were talking, it meant the rumors about his HIV status were spreading in Lagos. One evening, as he sat contemplating his life, an idea began to form. It was desperate, twisted, and completely unethical, but to Victor's damaged psyche, it seemed like a perfect solution. If I can't live with this shame in Lagos, I will go elsewhere and become someone else, he muttered to himself. He remembered stories of pastors who had risen from nothing to become powerful, wealthy, and respected. They all commanded respect and had followers who would do anything for them. What if he could recreate that kind of power for himself? Within 2 weeks, Victor liquidated his savings, sold his car, electronics, and bought a bus ticket to Kaduna State. far from where anyone who knew him could locate him. He chose a small town called Kafanchan, where he could blend in and start fresh. My name is Pastor Victor Emmanuel. I am new in your community. He introduced himself to the locals, adapting a fake name and adapting a religious title. God has called me to minister to this community. Transformation was remarkable. Gone was a flashy Lagos big boy. In his place stood a seemingly humble man of God, wearing simple clothes and carrying a well-worn Bible. He rented a small room and began visiting the local markets, praying for the traders and offering words of encouragement. Within 3 months, Pastor Victor Emmanuel convinced several local businessmen to help him establish Mount Carmel Miracle Center. He was charismatic, well-spoken, and he seemed to have an answer for every problem. Most importantly, he appeared to perform miracles. What the congregation didn't know was that these miracles were carefully orchestrated scams. Victor hired actors from neighboring towns to pose as invalids and sick people, who would then be miraculously healed during service. Baba Musa, we have been coming to church without walking sick for months, Victor announced during service. Today, God wants to heal you. Papa Musa, who was actually perfectly healthy and being paid 20,000 naira per performance, threw away his walking stick and danced around the church. The congregation erupted in praise and thanksgiving, their faith in Pastor Victor growing stronger. The church grew rapidly. People came from far and wide to witness the miracles. Victor introduced tithes, offerings, and special miracle seeds that cost increasingly large amounts of money. Within a year, he had constructed a large church building and was living a very comfortable life. But Victor's HIV condition was worsening. Despite his medication, his viral load remained detectable, partly because he wasn't taking his drugs consistently. The stress of maintaining his false identity, combined with poor diet and sleepless nights, were taking its toll. It was then he conceived his most diabolical plan. My beloved congregation, Victor announced one sunny Sunday morning, God has revealed to me a new way to bless you all. We will be introducing Holy Zobo, a blessed drink that will carry divine healing to whoever consumes it. The congregation received this news with great excitement. Zobo was a popular Nigerian drink made from hibiscus leaves, ginger, date palm, and other fruits. The idea of a blessed version seemed wonderful. What they didn't know was Victor's sinister intention. In his warped mind, he reasoned that if he was going to suffer with HIV, he wouldn't suffer alone. Every batch of Holy Zobo was contaminated with his blood, carefully mixed in the preparation process. Sister Mary, bring the Holy Zobo to the front, Pastor Victor called during service. Everyone who drinks from this cup will receive divine healing and prosperity. The church members lined up, eagerly, each paying 500 naira for a cup of the blessed drink. Children, pregnant women, elderly people, everyone wanted their share of the blessing. Victor watched with a sick satisfaction as hundreds of people consumed his contaminated Zobo week after week. The money rolled in. The Holy Zobo became so popular that people from other states traveled to Kafanchan just to purchase it. Victor expanded the operation, hiring local women to prepare the Zobo, though he always handled the final blessings himself. The moment when he added his blood. Pastor Victor, this Zobo is truly blessed, testified Sister Rebecca, a trader who had been buying the drink for her entire family. Since we started drinking it, our businesses has improved. Victor smiled and blessed her, knowing that she and her family were now at risk of contracting HIV. The guilt should have eaten him up alive, but he had convinced himself that he was simply sharing his burden. In his twisted logic, if everyone was infected, no one would be stigmatized. Despite his condition an evil mind. Victor's old habits began to resurface. The power and respect he commanded as a pastor had not diminished his lustful desires. If anything, they had only amplified them. Sister Grace was a beautiful 24-year-old accountant who joined the church 6 months earlier. She was deeply religious, modest and completely devoted to what she believed was God's work through Pastor Victor. Her innocence and purity attracted Victor like a moth to a flame. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so by now. Thank you. Sister Grace, please see me after service, Victor announced. God has been revealing certain things about your destiny that we need to discuss privately. At first, the private meetings seemed innocent enough. They would sit in Victor's office, pray together and discuss scripture, but gradually, Victor began to cross boundaries. Sister Grace, God has shown me that you are my spiritual daughter, he told her during one evening meeting. But this relationship requires special bonding. Come, let me lay hands on you and pray. His hands lingered longer than appropriate, moving from her head to her shoulders, then gradually lowering. Grace felt uncomfortable, but didn't know how to object to a man of God. Pastor, I don't think this is appropriate, she finally whispered. Appropriate? Sister Grace, you must trust the leading of the Holy Spirit, Victor replied smoothly. I am God's vessel. Would you question God's methods? The manipulation was masterful. Victor used Grace's faith against her, making her doubt her own instincts. He scheduled prayer meetings at odd hours, always when the church was empty. He bought her expensive gifts, claiming they were from the church's benevolent fund. Pastor Victor cares so much about me, Grace confided in her friend Mercy. He says God has special plans for my life. Mercy, who had been observing the situation with growing concern, tried to warn her friend. Grace, be careful. Some of these pastors are not who they seem to be. Why does he always want you to meet him alone? But Grace was too deeply indoctrinated to listen. She trusted Pastor Victor completely, viewing him as God's representative on earth. The inevitable happened one rainy Wednesday. Victor called Grace for an emergency prayer section, claiming that God had revealed an urgent spiritual attack against her family. Sister Grace, this spiritual battle is fierce, Victor said. I need to pray and anoint you with the holy oil. Now. First, you must remove your outer garments. The enemy can be hiding in your clothes. Grace hesitated, but Victor's authoritative tone and her trust in him overcame her reservations. What followed next was a calculated assault disguised as spiritual ceremony. Victor had carnal knowledge of her. He violated her innocence, claiming throughout that was part of a divine ritual necessary for her spiritual breakthrough. This is how God works through his servants, he whispered as Grace wept in confusion and pain. You must never speak of this to anyone, or you will bring a curse upon yourself and your family. The trauma was devastating. Grace left the church that night feeling dirty, confused, and spiritually broken. She couldn't understand how something that felt so wrong could be God's will. The shame she felt in her silence, exactly as Victor had planned. Over the following weeks, Victor continued to manipulate Grace, convincing her that their spiritual union was ordained by God. He repeatedly assaulted her, each time reinforcing his authority and her obligation to submit. But Grace wasn't Victor's only victim. Sister Patience, Sister Ruth, Sister Blessing, they had all endured similar experiences. Each woman thought she was the only one. Each carried the shame in silence, and each continued to drink the holy zobo, unaware that they were being poisoned along with being sexually abused. Dr. James Ndubisi was a newly qualified medical doctor who returned to Kafanchan to serve his community. He was also a member of Mount Carmel Miracle Center, drawn by the seemingly powerful ministry of Pastor Victor. As a medical professional, Dr. Ndubisi began to notice troubling patterns among church members. Several regular attendees were falling ill with opportunistic infection, weight loss, and other symptoms that seemed suspiciously familiar. No selling. Have you noticed anything strange about some of our patients lately? He asked his colleague at the local clinic. Now that you have mentioned the doctor, we have an unusual number of people presenting with symptoms that could suggest immune system problems, and strangely, many of them attend the same church. Dr. Ndubisi's medical training kicked in. The correlation was too significant to ignore. When he ran discrete HIV tests on some of the affected patients, his worst fears were confirmed. Several church members were testing positive for HIV. This can't be coincidence, he muttered, studying the test results. There has to be a common source of transmission. He began asking careful questions. What do the affected patients have in common apart from church attendance? The answer that kept emerging was the Holy Zobo. Almost every HIV positive patient had been consuming the blessed drink regularly for months. Dr. Ndubisi faced a terrible dilemma. How could he accuse a respected pastor of deliberately infecting his congregation? The accusation seemed too monstrous to believe, yet the evidence was mounting. He decided to confide in his mentor, Professor Dolapo, a senior doctor at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital. Prof, I need your advice on a very delicate matter, he said. After hearing the situation, Professor Dolapo was grave. Ndubisi, so if your suspicions are right, then one of the most serious cases of bioterrorism I've ever seen or heard, this is it. You need to gather concrete evidence before making any accusation. Working secretly, Dr. Ndubisi began collecting samples of the Holy Zobo for testing. He had to be extremely careful. If Pastor Victor suspected anything, he might flee or eliminate evidence. Sister Mary, could I purchase some Holy Zobo to take home? He asked the woman who helped with the distribution. My sick aunt in Abuja heard about how blessed it is. The test results came from the National Laboratory in Abuja were shocking. The Zobo samples were contaminated with human blood, and further testing confirmed that the blood was HIV positive. Dr. Ndubisi felt sick to his stomach. His worst suspicion was confirmed. Pastor Victor, or whoever was helping in the preparation, was deliberately infecting his congregation. But he needed more evidence to convince the authorities and the church members, who held their pastor in near divine reverence. He began reaching out to the women who seemed closest to Pastor Victor, starting with Grace. Approaching her required extreme delicacy. Sister Grace, I hope you don't mind me asking, but you seem troubled lately. As a doctor and your brother in Christ, I'm concerned about your well-being. Grace initially denied anything was wrong, but Dr. Ndubisi's gentle persistence and medical authority eventually broke down her defenses. Doctor, I can't tell anyone. Pastor Victor said God would curse me and my family if I spoke about special prayer sessions. Sister Grace, no true man of God would threaten you with curses for telling truths. Please tell me what has been happening. Through tears and broken words, Grace revealed the sexual abuse she had encountered. Dr. Ndubisi's heart broke for her, but then he realized this was another piece of the puzzle. Pastor Victor was sexually assaulting church members without protection. Given his HIV status, he was directly transmitting the virus through multiple routes. Dr. Ndubisi knew he couldn't handle the situation alone. He reached out to Inspector David Oku, a detective with the Nigerian police force, whom he had treated for malaria the previous year. Inspector, I need to report a very serious crime, but I need your assurance that this would be handled with utmost discretion until we have all the evidence. Inspector Oku listened with growing horror as Dr. Ndubisi laid out evidence. The HIV-contaminated Zobo, the patterns of infection among church members, and the sexual abuse allegations. Doctor, what you are describing is multiple counts of attempted murder, sexual assault, and fraud. This Pastor Victor is a monster, but you are right. We need ironclad evidence. We don't want to believe the religious leaders are capable of such evil. They developed a plan. Inspector Opu will work with the State Ministry of Health to conduct a surprise inspection and testing, while Dr. BC continued gathering medical evidence and encouraging victims to step forward. Meanwhile, more church members were falling ill. Sister Rebecca, who had been buying the holy zobo for her entire family, watched in horror as her husband and 2 teenage children developed mysterious illnesses. Pastor Victor, my family is very sick. She approached him after service one Sunday. Despite drinking the holy zobo regularly, we are getting worse. Victor, now looking visibly unwell himself as his own HIV progressed, dismissed her concerns. Sister Rebecca, you must have secret sins that are blocking your healing. Increase your faith offerings and pray harder. This response angered Rebecca. She had given almost all her savings to the church, and now her pastor was blaming her for her family's illness. The beginning of the end came when Sister Patience, another of Victor's sexual abuse victims, attempted suicide. She was rushed to Dr. Ndubisi's clinic, where she broke down completely and revealed everything. Doctor, I can't live with this shame anymore, she sobbed. Pastor Victor has been forcing himself on me for months. He says it's God's will, but I feel so dirty, and now I'm always sick. I think I'm dying. Dr. Ndubisi asked for her permission to run some tests. When Patience's HIV test came back positive, he knew they had reached a tipping point. Sister Patience, what if experience is not God's will? It's criminal assault and the sicknesses you're experiencing. I need to tell you that you've contracted HIV. I believe Pastor Victor intentionally infected you. The revelation was devastating, but it also sparked something in Patience. Anger. Pure righteous anger at being deceived, abused, and poisoned by someone she had trusted completely. Doctor, we have to stop him. How many other women has he done this to? How many people has to be infected? Inspector Oku decided it was time to act. With medical evidence, witness testimonies, and the urgent need to prevent further infections, he obtained a warrant for Pastor Victor's arrest. On a busy Sunday morning, as Pastor Victor stood before his congregation, preparing to distribute the weekly Holy Zobo, police officers surrounded the church building. Pastor Victor Emmanuel, also known as Victor Adeboye, you are under arrest for multiple counts of attempted murder, sexual assault, fraud and reckless transmission of HIV, Inspector who announced as he entered the sanctuary. The congregation sat in stunned silence. Their beloved pastor, who had performed so many miracles, was being arrested like a common criminal. This is persecution! Persecution! Victor shouted, trying to maintain his facade. The enemy is using the authorities to attack God's work. Some church members began to pray and rebuke the police, but Dr. Ndubisi stepped forward. My brothers and sisters, please listen to me. I am Dr. Ndubisi. I am also a member of this church. I have discovered that Pastor Victor has been deliberately contaminating the Holy Zobo with his HIV positive blood. The church erupted in chaos. Shouts of disbelief, screams of horror, and cries of anguish filled the air as the implications sank in. That's impossible, shouted Papa Musa, who had been one of Victor's fake miracle recipients. Pastor Victor healed me. He is a man of God. Dr. Ndubisi held up a laboratory result. Papa Musa, I know you know this, but Pastor Victor hired you to pretend to be lame. He paid you 20,000 naira for you to perform fake healing. The miracles were signed. Papa Musa's face went pale. The truth of Dr. Ndubisi's words were undeniable. The doctor had somehow discovered their secret arrangements. Furthermore, Dr. Ndubisi continued, I have tested multiple samples of the Holy Zobo. Each batch contains HIV-contaminated blood. Everyone who has been drinking this Zobo might have been exposed to the virus. The screaming intensified. Mothers grabbed their children. Husbands stared at their wives in horror. Inspector who took control of the situation. Everyone, please remain calm. Medical teams are on their way to conduct a free HIV testing came for all church members. We urge everyone who consumed the holy zobo or had intimate contact with the accused to get tested immediately. As Victor was led away in handcuffs, he finally drops his pastoral facade. "You fools," he screamed at his congregation. "I gave you purpose. I gave you miserable life's meaning. Yes, I am HIV positive, and I shared it with you all. Now, we are all in this together." The naked hatred and contempt in his voice were stark contrast to the loving pastor they thought they knew. Sister Grace, who had been sitting in stern silence, finally stood up. He raped me," she shouted. "He raped me. He said it was God's will, but he raped me." Other women began to come forward. Sister Patience, Sister Ruth, Sister Blessing. One by one, they found their courage to speak the truth. The medical testing team revealed the true scope of Victor's crimes. Out of the 347 regular church members who had consumed the holy zobo, 89 tested positive for HIV. The numbers included entire families, husbands, wives, children, and elderly grandparents. Sister Rebecca's worst fears were confirmed. Her husband and both teenage children had contracted HIV from the contaminated zobo. The woman who had been one of Victor's most devout followers now faced watching her entire family battle a lifelong condition. "How could I have been so blind?" she wept. "I gave him my life savings. I feared that poison. I fed it to my own children." The 6 women who had been sexually assaulted by Victor all tested positive, confirming that he infected them through multiple routes. Grace, the young accountant who had trusted him completely, struggled with both physical reality of HIV and the psychological trauma of abuse. The ripple effect extended far beyond the church. Spouses of infected members, sexual partners, and even people who had shared drinks or meals with church members lived in fear for potential exposure. Dr. Ndubisi worked tirelessly to coordinate medical care for all the victims. The good news is that with proper care, HIV is no longer a death sentence, but you must take your medications consistently and attend all follow-up appointments, he told each patient. The financial devastation was equally severe. Many church members had donated their life savings to Victor's fake ministry. Sister Blessing had sold her late husband's land to make large offerings, believing it would bring blessings to her children. "I have nothing left," she sobbed. "I gave everything to that devil in sheep's clothing." Victor's trial became one of the most sensational crime cases in the Nigerian history. The media coverage was intense, with newspaper calling it the Holy Zobo murder and the pastor from hell. During the trial, the full extent of Victor's deception was revealed. Financial records showed he had collected over 50 million naira from his victims through tithes, offerings, and sales of contaminated zobo. Evidence of the staged miracles were presented, including testimonies from the actors he had hired. The most heartbreaking testimonies came from victims. Sister Grace, now receiving antiretroviral therapy and psychological counseling, faced Victor in the court with remarkable courage. "You told me that God required me to submit my body to you," she said. "You used my faith to destroy my life, but I want you to know that I forgive you, not because you deserve it, because I refuse to let your evil poison my heart, it poisoned away my body." Victor showed no remorse. "I gave those useless people hope," he declared. "Before I came, they were nothing. I made them believe in miracles." The judge, Justice Mohammed, was cutting in his final remarks. "Victor Adebayo, you have committed crimes so heinous that defy any comprehension. You exploited people's faith, poisoned their bodies, and violated their dignities. You are not a pastor. You are a predator of the worst kind." Victor was sentenced to imprisonment for 89 counts of attempted murder, 6 counts of rape, and multiple counts of fraud. He was ordered to pay 500 million naira in damages to his victims, though everyone knew he didn't have the money. 5 years later, Dr. James Ndubisi established the Kafanchan Hope Center, a facility dedicated to caring for HIV patients and educating communities about prevention. Many of Victor's victims became advocates for HIV awareness and religious fund intervention. Grace completed her master's degree in social work and now counsels survivors of such religious abuse. Sister Rebecca, despite losing everything to Victor's deception, found strength in supporting other victims, her husband, children, and others who live with HIV. Victor Adebayo's story serves a powerful reminder of several crucial truths. Faith is beautiful, but blind faith can be dangerous. Victor's promiscuous lifestyle led to his HIV infection, but instead of learning from his mistakes, he chose to spread to 10 people. Every choice has consequences. The legacy of Victor serves as both a warning and a call to action. HIV is not written on the forehead. Please subscribe, like, share your comments and thoughts on this story. Share to family and friends. Till I bring you another interesting, intriguing African story, God bless you.